Okay. Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting of the Pagosa Area Water Sanitation District at a regular meeting. Open. First thing we're gonna do is call to order. Bill. Here. Glenn. Here. Gene. Here. Paul. I don't see Paul, but he may be on later. Okay.
There is he there? The top?
No, there it is.
There he is. Paul, can you hear us?
No, you're not.
No, just haven't been put in.
He's joining now.
Okay. So all
Not
present.
still in Hawaii
It's in Minnesota.
tomorrow. Oh, not in pretty much.
Okay, next is consideration of agenda. Do we have any corrections to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to move the Pagosa Springs Community Development Corporation request and the Habitat for Humanity request to follow public comment.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, public comment, approval of minutes, excuse me. I need a motion for approval of minutes as was our last meeting on the 2nd, 15th. Anybody have any corrections?
Just some spelling or sense learning.
Okay,
So I move to approve the minutes.
second, motion's been made and second. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Let's comment that they're beautifully done, about as concise with the references to the actual video.
Yes.
Not gonna stop until you can just kind of do a haiku.
I will work on that for you.
Okay, we were gonna do public comment. You had to sign in. We'll give you 3 minutes and we'll move through this. And then people are on the agenda, of course, they'll have opportunity to speak longer. You don't have to, if you're on the agenda, you don't have to speak in public comment. So who wants to be first?
Well, do you want public comment now, anything's not on the agenda or things on the agenda?
Not on the agenda.
Agenda.
And your time, 3 minutes.
Right, does anybody have anything that they want to say that's not on the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to make a public comment.
Okay.
My name is George Brown. I live here in Pagosa on East Gulf. What I wanted to comment on is the rate fees increase that you raised at the last meeting. Now, I don't believe there was fair notification to, for one thing, the builders and everyone in town that the rates were going to be increased as in public notifications. Now, 10 years ago, I'd gotten in and they said they were going to raise the rates, and I purchased my meter, my tap fees before the rate increase. And this time the rate increase was March 1st, as far as I knew. So I called the PAWS office and they had told me that I could not submit my for a meter and pay my fees before the rate increase, supposedly on March 1st. So this is what I got on March 1st or in February. I got called the PAWS office. They said, you cannot submit and you will not get the 2023 rate. So, you know, this is what went on that I don't feel is fair. And as I saw in the newspaper, someone had made a comment, a builder had made a comment that they bid a project, and from what I gathered from their perspective, they weren't allowed to buy the permit before the rate increase also. So I don't know what went on, but this is what I was told. So I'd like an explanation.
Well, yeah, I'd say, because I was here back in 2006-07, that project was a different project. It became the $359 million reservoir project. Ironically.
Well, that was back then. What I want to know is why.
Well, we referenced
Why
that.
from, okay, why?
I didn't interrupt you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So back then, the board decided to grant, basically, either it was 6 months or 9 months, kind of an amnesty, that if you wanted to buy your tap before the reservoir fee, which was the water resource fee, went in place, you could come in and buy it and pay, which was about $1,200 or $1,300 to have your meter installed. So we did have like 800 or 900 meters installed all over Pagosa that weren't connected to houses, just to get in advance of that project. I'm on this board because it was a preposterous project, a disastrous project, and it was completely at discretion of the board. So they were playing politics to try and get the community to accept the project. This was not our project. This was imposed by the state. Regulation 85, we fought for years to try and get out from under it. All of this money that you all gonna pay, 85 making wonderful things in the rest of the state, you're paying 10.5 to $12 million to reduce slightly the nitrogen coming out of Vista, so that when it hits the Stolzheimer in Aspen Springs, it can be mixed with 10 to 12 grandfathered open sewage pipes. It's a total waste of money. It's being imposed on us. We went up to the state, we met with our state senator. He told us that there probably wasn't much chance we were gonna be successful. We then met with the CDPHE, and we kind of learned in the first 30 seconds that we weren't gonna be successful at abating this cost. So what we were able to do is to get them to consider an alternate approach, which is only 50% as expensive. And I did about as much beseeching and outright begging as I could. But that's why I'm paid the big bucks here. And they approved it. So what looks like these are terrible fees, especially on the sewer side. The water side I can justify, the sewer side I can't. But had we not gotten approval for that alternate oxidation trench, these fees would be $30,000. We have no discretion in this. In fact, as we delay implementation of this by a month or two, we will get grief from the CDPHE that we're not living up to our commitments to fund this project. So it's really not comparable. You know, and you know what, if you call the office, and this will come up later, but if you call the office in August, there's simply no way somebody in the office can do more than take a look at the schedule of fees and tell you what the schedule of fees are. How is she supposed to guess when Glenn goes up to Denver, he's gonna get a good reception from the CDPHE, or he's gonna get a frosty reception? When he gets the frosty reception and asks for the 50% discount, will it get that or won't it get that? And when it comes down here and we start a rate study, what will the rate study produce? And when the rate study comes back, will the board decide to break it 50-50, 90-10, 10-90? You can't expect somebody sitting in office and the office just done to make those guesses. You know, it's a terrible situation, but, and if you need to blame somebody, blame me, it's fine, but I think we went over this at the last meeting, that we don't have many options.
So, March 1st, the fees went into effect, correct? Or are they retroactive or what?
Well, typically what we do is we have fees for each year, right? And for the last few years, in fact, since I've been on the board, we've managed to pay down debt and to increase the fees by the rate of inflation. Well, we can't do that now. And so what we typically do is the 23 building season pays the 23 fees, the 24 building season pays the 24 fees. Typically, those fees would have come out about a month earlier, but because of noticing requirements and having to, you know, we missed the noticing requirements by a couple of days, we had to push it off by a month. So it's never been the case in PAWS that you paid the previous year's fees. You never walked in January 2nd and said, give me last year's fees. It was always, well, the board's gonna be meeting in late January and establishing this building season's fees.
I was just gonna listen in on this meeting.
So, that's-
There's several things I was gonna talk to him about last night, but that other guy broke down here with us, so I didn't bring up much of it.
And right now, if you were to call, like, it's September, or say that it's June, you call the office, and unfortunately, you're not gonna hear $1,187 or whatever we have the lowest fees in the state until the state hit us with 85. And the office is going to tell you $15,600. Plus perhaps a affordable housing surcharge. But there's no guarantee. I mean, we're very confident that this oxidation trench is gonna get our nitrogen down. But if it doesn't, then we're gonna be back under their thumb, and they're gonna say, you got to invest another $10 million. And people are, and then next year's fees will be $26,000 or $28,000, and people will say, well, when I called you in July, you said it was 16. Well, we didn't know that they were gonna ultimately say our oxidation trench doesn't work well enough. And we have to invest another $10 million into this. It's a pretty grim situation.
Yeah, well, for builders,
I-
in particular, for builders who bid projects already, and then they're told that they've got to pay another $10,000 for
I get it,
whoever, not however number of many homes.
but there's really not a dollar of discretion, you know. I mean, that's competitive, there's always a few dollars of discretion, but it's very thin. And so if we did, we could do a 6-month grandfather, and that would mean the next person who comes out with 6 months is just gonna have to pay not 15.6, but 18.6. Is that fair to them? I mean, it's just spreading pain. That's all we're doing, is spreading pain. So,
And one of the things we talked about, I think at our last meeting too, and as I recall, most of the builders in the area have in their contract something like, if there is a hurricane in Florida and the price of OSB quadruples, the people can't expect you to hold that price when everything else increases. So again, it's a bad situation, but we don't have any discretion
on what we learned from Wonder and
on funds right now.
That's right. So let's hear the mirrors to that.
Yes.
A question, what is your level of confidence that this is gonna resolve the problem?
The sewer problem?
Engineers are pretty confident it's gonna work.
Okay, so we're not gonna have to go back and retrofit again.
We hope not.
and some of those costs would be additive to what we're doing, so it wouldn't be like this is, a dead end, and we have to back up and, so, but it might be additional, so it's.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just have I'm also a builder and, most of the homes I've built here in Pagosa have been on the lower end, kind of trying to keep housing costs lower. And, so like, costs of lots have gone up a fair amount since I moved here, but, when it comes down to like, a proposition like this where it's, basically tripled, over a year's period, in just tap fees, especially for a lower end house. That's pretty catastrophic in the, like, per square foot cost of a home. Like, you take a 1,500 square foot house and add 30,000, that's $10,000. I mean, $10 a square foot. That you automatically have to tap onto the cost of a home. And when homes are already fairly expensive here, that just, adds a lot. And I guess one of my thoughts, and I mean, it may be stupid, but would be possibly looking at square footages of a home versus like just across the board, $27,000 to tap into a sewer. It's especially like most of these properties have been paying for 40 years for the tap fees and stuff, the accessibility fees. And then you go to the you know, just tapping on 10,000 or $10 square foot to a small house, and $15 square foot. It's like keeps the lower end especially from being affordable. And I guess that's one of my biggest concerns, like with this, that, you know, when it's a kind of across the board fee, yeah, it's important to spread it out, but when you're looking at, you know, what somebody can afford versus like, you know, as far as, you know, if they're building a 6,000 square foot house or 1,200 square foot house, it's a big difference.
So a little later in the meeting, we're gonna be discussing waiving fees for workforce and affordable and low income housing. So stick around for that.
Yeah,
That should be an interesting
I do
conversation.
understand, you know, that the workforce housing is in there, and that's like pretty low, and I mean, that's very low income. But I'm also kind of talking to just people that, you know, are wanting to get into a $500,000 house, which is kind of the low end of Pagosa right now. You know, if not workforce housing, if not, you know, they probably still can't afford a mortgage at $60,000 for a $500,000 house, you know, $66,000 a year for a $500,000 house, but it still kind of pushes a lot of the lower end homes, you know, basically it forces, you know, as a builder, it forces me to have to build at, you know, $530,000 instead of $500,000. And so it just automatically pushes the cost up, you know, so that's all I was.
So can I get your name, please?
It's Jonathan Eason.
Oh,
Thank you.
And I don't get that, I mean, a lot, as you stay for the meeting, just the size of the sums involved have turned this into kind of an institutional question with a lot of institutional answers. And the sort of independent family entrepreneur who actually, you know, built Old Pagosa really struggles to find a place, and even if we do some pretty aggressive remedies, a lot of that falls through the cracks. So
Okay, let's move on, please. All right, Emily, last consideration of Pagosa Springs Community Development Corporation request.
Good afternoon, directors. Thank you so much for allowing me this time to present to you today. Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of what I get to share with you today. I'm going to really appreciate in our project. So as you know, the Pagosa Springs Community Development Corporation was donated some lots by the county to create a workforce housing program. We created a full circle approach. We pulled the banks into this to create some favorable loan products. We're working with major employers to identify the targeted market that's looking to buy a home. We have worked with the town and county to get grant funding to offset the costs of these homes. We have banks partnering on the construction side of the loan, all the way around to having a lottery process for these people, and also getting them into home ownership and a product that they can afford. So our objective is, over the next 4 years, is to build 4 houses. We're going to complete 10 homes a year that fall between the 80 to 100% AMI. This is very challenging to do. The AMI is limited due to the grant funding that we are going after. Our original intent was to build from 80 to 120, but I can't access grant funding, and it's not affordable to build without the grant funding. So we're trying to get the price down between the 80 to 100% AMI. So what we have come across is that we are building 8 2-bedrooms, 2-bath, 1-car garage at the 80% AMI, and we are building 2 3-bedroom, 2-bath at the 100% AMI. That's what we are proposing this year. I would like to modify my request tonight, but I'll get to that when I get a little bit closer. So how did we come up with this? Next slide, please. We did our own housing needs assessment. We sent a survey out to our top 5 employers, the county, the town, Archuleta School District, Pagosa Springs Medical Center, and the Springs Resort. These are our top 5 employers. They employ the most amount of people. We had an outstanding response with 261 people taking this survey. I'm going to share a couple of these results with you, and it will show you the why we need to build these houses. Next slide, please. The average age is 30 to 40 years old. This is our service class that we need in this community. Teachers, nurses, EMTs, firefighters, those type of people. Next slide, please. How many members are in your household? 2 was the top answer out of all 261 total. Next slide, please. Are your current housing costs affordable? 42% of 261 said no, which means they are paying more than 1/3 of their pay for housing. That's not surprising for where we live. Next slide, please. Does the lack of affordable housing restrict your employment opportunities? 49% people said yes. I can't change my job because of where I live. I can't advance my job or change jobs because of the cost of housing. If you rent and you want to buy, the next slide, please. When are you looking to buy? In the next 3 years, 109 people responded that they want to buy a house. In 2024, I have 43 buyers for 10 houses that want affordable housing. I want to give you a really clear example of how an 80% AMI, how tough it is to live here. Next slide, please. So 80% AMI, this is a 2-person household. This is the CHAPA number that qualifies for a 2-person household. The total income is $66,560. You take into consideration, that's a gross, CHAPA fixed the AMI level on your gross income. Take out your payroll taxes, because the average median is so low, we only figured 18%. I'm not sure that that is actually achievable, but that's the number we put in here. We hypothetically said these people have 1 car payment, the other car is probably already paid off. Both people are working, and that's how they hit that dual income. Car insurance, $255, groceries, $600 a month. That could include maybe an out to dinner time. Gas for both cars, $400 a month. Utilities, this is gas, electric, water, sewer, probably $300. We did an average costing. And then their availability for a principal, interest, taxes, and insurance amount of money is $1,849 a month. This leaves them $580 a month. Things that are not included in there are health insurance, cell phone, prescriptions, cable TV, or internet. And the reason I picked these things is because you get to choose whether you have these or not. You don't get to choose whether you have these things. So at this point, we're hearing some of our people at poverty have to choose between health care and putting food on their table. Some of them have to choose between prescriptions and putting food on their table. Many people in poverty or 80% AMI do not have cable or internet or one or the other. And they choose to keep their cell phone going because it's their only sense of communication. Let me tell you how we got here. Next slide, please. You can see how unaffordable it is to live at 80% AMI. We have the perfect recipe for an all-time housing crisis. 11.4 poverty rate. We have staffing shortages to the magnitude that the hospital had to close the 2nd floor for a long period of time. Restaurants closed 2, sometimes 3 days a week due to staffing shortages. We have a fire chief living in a fifth wheel on Putt Hill with his wife and 2 children because he can't find an affordable place to live. We have limited employment due to housing costs. We have been declared the most expensive place to live in all of Southwest Colorado by Region 9. They also identified that we currently are 229 units short for our current demand. That's not including any employees that our hospital needs to recruit, the school district, anybody. This is what we currently have here that are living with family or bunking somewhere else or need their own place to live. Our average, our AMI is lower than the average in this area in all of Region 9 at 62.5 in 2023. That number has adjusted just at the beginning of March to the 66 or 63 something. I'm sorry. I don't want to misquote myself. The average median list price on 229, which was just a couple weeks ago, was $775,000. That's for sale homes. We have 0 single-family affordable housing for home ownership in Pagosa Springs right now. Next slide, please. This was a community problem, and we were asked by our municipalities to help solve the workforce housing problem. So the county donated 45 lots. It started out at 6, and as the lots cleared 2 cycles of the auction and didn't even bring a minimum bid, they decided to make our project a bigger project and have a bigger impact. The county applied for a $1.9 million infrastructure grant. What this grant is designed to do is work for Habitat for Humanity and PSCDC. We originally wanted to apply to do infrastructure improvements to take down the costs of our house. But instead of just serving ourselves, we decided to apply for enough funding that will cover all of Chris Mountain 2 and all of Trails. We were awarded this grant funding on the 29th of February. So what the infrastructure will do is perfect all the roads. It will put fiber in all over that development, and it will put electric where all it needs to go, all over both sides of the development. This in turn will open up an additional 105 lots in Chris Mountain 2 and Trails to affordably be built that will result in a total of $6.5 million of tap fees for POSD. The county also contributed to $30,000 for pre-development funds. We collaborated with the town on a Stronger Community grant that we also just got awarded. This is to put a housing coordinator in the community to help develop more affordable housing, and also to work with every developer to try to factor in some units of affordable housing, and also to opt into funding from the Prop 123 that was passed. Next slide, please. The town's partnership was the Stronger Communities grant. They applied for that and we just got awarded that. And they both partnered on a local capacity grant. This is going to, that one is funding the housing coordinator. The Stronger Communities does a housing needs assessment that actually the town and county will own, but all developers can access. Anybody going after Prop 123 will have to have this housing needs assessment to be able to get any funding. Both the town and the county opted in to Prop 123, which opens all of that funding up to any for-profit developer, not-for-profit developer, anyone working on housing. Next slide, please. The community has really come together and we're all rowing in the same direction. When I was here last month, when you were talking about raising the fees, I believe one of you all said to me, you know, if everyone else is cooperating on this project, we're willing to do our fair share. So I wanted to bring to you and show you what everyone else is doing. The More Housing Now for $1.9 million has been awarded. This project will significantly impact the affordable housing. Mouth is dry. It is also the fastest way for us to increase affordable housing because most of the infrastructure is where it needs to be. And with this grant, it's all going to be where it needs to be, and it drives down the price of the house. The county planning department has agreed to waive all permitting fees. PLPOA has also agreed to waive all permitting fees. The Wyndham Bankruptcy Fund will extend our electric, and the grant will extend the electric where we need it to go. And subcontractors have agreed to provide a steep discount. The next slide, please. All of these people, including Pause D, as they have contributed to Habitat for Humanity, are working with us to make this project work. So this is a slide that hosts people that have done a lot of support work for Habitat and those who are supporting this project here today that I'm bringing to you for affordable housing. What is our commitment to Pause D? Next slide, please. We will continue to work and look for funding for the needs that we have as a community. This is not just a Pause D problem. This is a complete community problem. And we're willing to come to the table and partner and help you reach out to who we need to support grant applications that you're putting in, help you identify funding that can help offset the costs of the builds that you are required to do by the state. We will follow through with the infrastructure improvements and open up that availability for some more affordable housing. The additional 105 lots are not counted in the 55 units that Habitat and I are building out there over the next couple of years. We would be delighted to include Pause D employees in this project and be able to provide affordable housing for them. And we need your help to be an essential partner. We need to employ more teachers. We need a new home for the fire chief. We will actively promote Pause D's participation to make sure the community knows that you support affordable workforce housing and that you are a partner. I handed you a document about unintended consequences if we cannot reduce the fees from what the new fee structure is going to be. This is a fact document, and I'm sorry you don't have it up here. It's because I have only found this out since I turned in this presentation, as I spent 6 hours on the phone yesterday with the Department of Housing. These are facts. Currently, our total build of 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage costs us, and this includes our loan fees, everything in one package, $378,000. That actually hits 125% AMI. Tomorrow, I am applying for $890,000, which is equivalent to $89,000 per house to reduce the cost for a final construction mortgage of $289,000. That is under 100% AMI. This is the only way I can get here. I have leveraged everything we can. We are working with every entity we can to try to get these houses into the market. These houses will count towards the county's Prop 123 goal that they committed, which is 43 houses over the next 3 years. We have applied for every grant possible to assist with the cost of this to get the houses into 80 to 120 AMI. The unintended consequences that you could have never foreseen in the choice of having, or the not choice of having to raise your fees, is if the CDC does not get any reduction in the fees and we have to pay the $25,000 per household, it moves our price of the home into 150 AMI. It knocks me out of the availability to apply for the Prop 123 funds of $890,000, which is $89,000 per household. In a result to that, it will not be possible for us to achieve the affordable housing goal of 80 to 100% AMI that is required for the More Housing Now. Part of the agreement on the infrastructure grant is that Habitat and I, and this was the pitch we gave them, will provide 50 units over the next 4 years of affordability in this entire area of this development. So it would put our $1.9 million grant at risk because we cannot promise that we can build that AMI level that we promised when we were awarded the grant. It will remove 10 homes from the county Prop 123 of the 43 homes that they have, and it will result in a loss of $2.7 million in grant funding towards workforce housing. So what is the CDC asking from you? I would like to give you a couple options, and I'd like to come to a great solution so that we can move forward on this project. I originally wanted to come and ask to waive all 40 houses, but that's not my request here today. Let's talk about this year's build of 10 houses, because there's more grant funding I can apply for that I might be able to address this next year. And I don't know what I don't know. So I'd like to modify my request to talk about 10 houses for this year. What I'd like to ask is that you waive the fees, as everyone else has done, for these 10 houses this year. We will address the rest of the 40 houses in the coming years as we get to them. Or I would ask you to grandfather me in on
And the reason being for that is we're trying to get
the schedule and
so many times.
project pencil to pay the
That's
2023.
way out in the area by where
I want
Omega
you to know
is,
that our,
you know, and they're coming a long ways. And so we're kind of on the tail end of the list. And we're trying to get someone who's more local to our area. So if you can search for, you know, other bids around, you know, our area would be really nice.
needs with the homeowner, and this isn't something that Cause D would have to do. It's something that the housing authority or the housing corporation will do. So please don't worry about that piece, because it's required for us to be income qualified. It has to be owner occupied. It can never become a short-term rental, and that the person has to work in Archuleta County. Only upon approval are they income restricted. So if they get a raise and they fall outside that, they just, when they go to sell the house, they'll have to sell the house to someone in that 80 to 120 AMI. So the deed restrictions are very straightforward. They're very solid. This will be deed restricted for 33 years. This will keep the inventory in the market for 33 years. I also want you to know that the CDC isn't making any money on this. We are not a developer. We have taken this project on for the town and the county. We just have the need for our workforce to have an affordable place to live. And we've heard it from all of our major employers. I would be happy to answer any questions for you. Please help me bring affordable housing to your employees and keep them here.
Well, can I ask you a set of questions?
Anything you want.
And this is coming from a supporter, an admirer of what you've done, because I have to apologize at the last meeting. Kind of scoffed at, I didn't scoff, but it was a little dismissive, because I had seen your presentation up at the more of the missing middle market, which is not my particular focus. And I think I may be on tape as saying, well, Emily's gonna be here, but she's not really gonna bring anything. That's gonna, well, you brought a lot, so thanks for that. But I do have some questions, and I'd like to also press the idea that everybody's pitching. I want to also preface it by saying a pat pause on the back. It wasn't really our intention in 2008, 2007 to put in, at that time, $2 million of infrastructure there. we were in the go-go growth phase and we wanted to punch up our numbers so we could get dry culture approval. That's what it was all about. But we did put it in, and then the market crashed and the developer didn't put in electricity. We did get paid $1 million, but that infrastructure, we wouldn't even be discussing Chris Mountain if we had to put in the water and wastewater infrastructure today. It'd be $7 or $8 million.
Yeah.
So, we also, and I'm not, there's no good guys or bad guys, or, we lost about $1 million of accumulated taxes and fees went through the county deed, treasurer deed process. And the fact that, all of that investment might wind up being worthwhile is actually encouraging. It's a sunk cost. So I'm not saying we've already made our contribution to, because that's not my approach. I'm kind of encouraged that we might be able to put it to a good use. So here are my concerns though. I understand this. You want to build homes, you don't want to do great surveys. So maybe when you want to do your survey, you did the biggest and easiest one you could. But sometimes when you do a survey, that indicates what your market's going to be. And this could look like a government-funded program for government employees, because right now, there are no cooks in here, there are no waitresses in here, there are no construction workers in here. These are we have construction workers, but you know what I mean. It's mostly government and the most significant destination resort. So I just want, when I look, then I'm encouraged though, because you're really hitting on the 2 income aspect of qualifying, which would open up these homes for people that work in hospitality and in restaurants and in bars and in construction. So just want to guarantee that we're not just, it's easy to fall into a people like us view of this. And when the fire district chief is kind of highlighted, I'm sure that that's a particular challenge, but unless he bargained way down from what Randy was being paid, we have a lot of people in much worse condition
Absolutely.
than the fire chief.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with the need that we do have wait staff, we do have cooks,
Right.
we do have, but we don't have a product that they can afford. And actually with this grant funding of the $890,000, to bring that house down to 289, you haven't seen a price like that in this community in a really long time for a quality stick-built house that is in the PLPOA.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when, I understand you want a quick survey, but this is not the population that we're going to limit.
No, the needs
houses.
assessment will
Yeah.
actually fill that need, except for that needs assessment is really, really expensive.
Right.
And so we had to go after a grant. We got that needs assessment. The RFP is currently being written. This is a partnership between the county, the town, and the CDC. So we can all use that needs assessment, and that'll be a public document. If you all want to use it to base off, what the need is for workforce housing, this is a public document. You'll be able to, get access to it.
Right. And then on everyone pitching in. So we're going to pitch in. My hope is to pitch in $25,600 per unit. Okay. I don't see anybody, and I understand however it plays out, we're going to pitch in more than anyone else. But I mean, if the county gave all of you, if we're really committed to Chris Mountain and we want Chris Mountain to be a game changer. Well, if the county, say, gave your average 400 and probably will be assessed 450,000 sooner or later. If they gave you a 15-year tax break, that would probably be about $6,000 or $7,000. We're giving 26. The fire district, I remember 2017, the fire district was a struggling district with $1 million of revenue. Now, mill levy has gone from 3 and change to 8.33, and next year we'll probably have $6 million of revenue. To what extent can they give these homes a 10 or 15-year tax break? That would bring it down another $7,000 or $8,000. Yeah, and we're 26. I don't see why other people can't be 7 or 6. That's not a deal breaker for me, but I think it's a deal maker for a lot of
I
people.
think it's a.
Obviously,